So, welcome back to another episode of the Japanese Shabaru podcast. We are in week 2 of spring season of anime. As you can see, we're going to be starting off with a brand new one, possibly one of the stronger anime of the season, To Be Hero X. And basically, this show or anime starts off with our protagonist Lin having a meeting for his advertisement job where he try to promote or put an ad for like anybody being able to become a hero, which in this anime you can't. You just have to build up something that all heroes need is like trust from other people, and with more trust you could be essentially a greater hero. But the boss shuts down his project, and then he is at the brink of like basically ending it all. So he goes to the rooftop and he's contemplating whether he's gonna end it all then and there, or if he's gonna, or what he's gonna do next. But before he can decide on what to do next, he sees the hero that his company promotes, which is Nice, uh, and you just kind of see him look at him, and this hero is the one that walks off from the cliff or from the edge of the top of the building. And as far as Ling knows, he's like, okay, well, he'll be fine because he's a superhero. He can just fly his way out of it. But when he doesn't see him come back up, it's kind of like, whoa, he just he just died right there and there. And it's such a good comparison between the two because the hero Nice, he was on top of the world. You could even say he had everything going right well for him, and meanwhile Ling was like mediocre at best and really low in life, like at the lowest part of his life. And both of them contemplated whether they were gonna end it there, uh, but Nice was the one that took the extra leap forward. Meanwhile, Ling stayed behind. So it kind of makes you wonder why Nice actually went through with it and what's going on with his death. How is it going to affect the world now? And before we can really get answers to that, we have to figure out what's going to happen with Ling next, who got noticed by Nice's agent. And pretty much what ended up happening afterwards is they made Ling become the new Nice. So essentially, they swapped personalities or swapped persons. Like Ling ceased to exist while uh, Nice continued on, but Nice is now Ling. So Ling took the identity of Nice, and because he took the identity of Nice, he had to once again continue with the hero work that allowed people to continue to trust him, so he could perform hero-like abilities. And they made him a whole special resume of how to get the same body shape as Ling. They did a whole makeup on him. They painted his hair, everything. So from the surface, he looked and he looked like Nice, and because he was technically being nice now, people started trusting him more, and in that trust, he started gaining superhero abilities. And aside from the nice PR for the world, there's still like his private life that also now Link had to kind of take over. And one of the nicest girlfriends was actually one of the other heroes that Ling did a promo for in that other company he used to work for before he became nice. And in one of those, him and Nice's girlfriend had to go to this talk show where they essentially had a last minute substitute with another hero that was trying to like uh basically open wide the that this uh relationship was all a facade. Like it was all for show and there was no real substance behind it. And in doing that, you essentially see that even heroes within their own ranks try to bring down other heroes lower. So not only do the heroes have to keep good good trust within society, they also have to watch out for other heroes who are trying to bring them down. But it backfired because Ling really just poured his heart out on this other hero that because he actually really had like a crush on her. He even viewed her as a goddess, as he says, and he was able to determine how much advertisement she got because he was the one that worked on it. And then, of course, for the final test, we have to bring in the counterpart to the trust power, which is fear. And with fear is another component that allows people to gain power. So the more fear you incur, or the more you fear, or the more fear you bring out of people, the more powerful you also become. But it's in like the complete opposite side of trust. Whereas this power doesn't, it's not really fleshed out too much, but I'm willing to bet this power like will have negative effects towards you, and also like complete, because it'll diminish the complete trust you have on that other people will have on you. You'll never be able to be a hero to society. So for Ling, he got kind of like a good revenge because his former boss was the one that was trying to use this fear power for his own benefit. And I gotta say, like, the fighting animation was incredible. This anime, uh, first and foremost, is like a combination of 2D and 3D, but it does it in a way where like it feels like it flows naturally. Like what I've noticed is like when it goes into flashbacks, that's when it tries to do more 2D-ish, and then when it goes into action sequences, it's a little bit more 3D, but also sometimes they'll switch to 2D for like impact. So it it was great seeing that the action up and close. And after afterwards they beat the boss, and now Nice, or Ling in this case, had one more thing that he had to do. And basically now that he has some battle experience, they're like, okay, well, now that you have some battle experience under your belt, the agent takes him back to Hero Tower, which is like depending on how you rank, it determines how well you live off in there. And this is where Link kind of has to question, like, okay, so can I ask you about what happened with Nice back there? Uh, why did he end his life and stuff? And this is where she's kind of like, well, maybe you'll find out after you reach where he was, which is letting us know that, well, at least for me, it let me know that there's more baggage that comes with being a hero that it's not really shown. And this anime will hopefully dive into all the negatives of what it takes to be a hero, and a high ranking hero, as compared to like the regular Joes. And because Ling was a regular Joe, he will come to appreciate all what heroes do even more. And maybe once he reaches the same level that Nice had, or once he realizes why Nice took his own life, it will make that first episode even more impactful than what it already was. But yeah, overall, I gotta say, like, the anime, it's amazing. First episode is easily like a 9.5 out of 10. Nothing really wrong with it. I think the music is great. This is definitely one of the ones I highly recommend anybody start with. But that'll be it on To Be a Hero X. My Hero Vigilantes, the spin-off of My Hero. Uh, First of all, this is like during the time when All Might was at his prime, and it was really just the beginning of what All Might was trying to become, like the symbol of peace, so that nobody could fear. So it's still within the My Hero universe, which is great. It's just giving us a little more backstory on the world prior to All Might's takeover, essentially. And I I love that, because this is still supposed to be like a brand new show. They still try to get us with letting us know how, like, all the quirks started. So in case you start with Vigilantes instead of My Hero first, uh, this lets you know how the quirks started. And it lets us know that during this time, before All Might became the symbol of peace, there was not only just heroes, but there was like another type of hero that was working in the background, which was the vigilantes, the ones that were not sanctioned by the government, and they didn't they weren't doing this to get a pay. They were doing this out of, like, kind of like Batman, where he just does it and doesn't require the recognition of being a hero. And the story kicks off with our main character witnessing our main character Koichi noticing All Might in action, taking care of a villain, and we find out his quirk is one of, like, the first of all, his quirk is one of the silliest ones I've seen from My Hero, but it seems like it could be kind of fun to play around with. His was like called, like, slide and glide, which is just he glides on surfaces, but he has to, like, make contact with, like, three different points of his body or something like that. But I guess if you don't feel like walking, it's a nice quirk to just, like, slide around everywhere. And that's where this episode was just really meeting our main trio, which first it was Koichi, and then we met Pop Step, which is like a self-proclaimed freelance idol. So she was been performing in the streets using her quirk, which is like jumping, just lets her jump really far and stuff. And this one, I do love that Koichi does have kind of like a self-awareness that his quirk is one of, like, the lamer ones in the universe, where it's like he could have had, like, super strength or fire or anything, but instead he's just like sliding and gliding. So, and I do like that one of the times that he does use squirt was to get away from these thugs, and then they ended up coming back to, because our boy is like a college student that has to work part times to pay for school. So these thugs that he ran away from earlier in the episode come back, and they find him in the store, and they kind of like they beat him up, and they did what they were gonna initially do to him. But even with all this, Koichi's still like a hero at heart, because even after all this, he still got up, got on his suit, and he started using his quirk to go around town, just doing minimal favors, like taking out people's trash, help helping people take photos, all these other minor stuff that heroes don't have the time to do. So I do like that this series is kind of pointing out, like, what my hero Academia initially was dealing with towards the end, where it was like the cracks that the heroes left behind was essentially the ones that were gonna undo society in the end, and now this one's kind of like telling you, yes, these were like the regular Joes that needed help, and they were only given this help with these vigilantes that weren't even sanctioned by the government. So this was their way of still helping people without needing to be a proper hero, or people that couldn't get the proper license to be a hero. But poor Koichi, once again, he meets Popstep in an alley, and the thugs reappear again. And this time they're kind of trying to have their way with Popstep, and Koichi does try to be a hero, but it's not working out this time either, because one of the guys has like a spike quirk that kind of makes him have like Wolverine taking out his claws, but this guy just can take out spikes anywhere in his body. And that's when our last trio member appears, Knuckle Buster, who just or Knuckle Duster, my bad. Uh, and he shows up, and then he goes to town on these thugs. But it's interesting because as he's knocking them down, he's checking their tongues, which I thought was weird at first, but then it later gets explained as to why he's doing that, because there's a drug that's going around town, and he's the one that's trying to chase after where it originated and try to stop it at its source. But because of Koichi's bravery, he decides that, okay, well, I like how you move. You need to come with me so I can help you, train you, and then you can help me with my work. So these three form kind of like an alliance, and kind of like a mini. These three are going to be our mini group going forward in the series. And then of course Knuckle Duster is trying to like force an answer out of people afterwards, because he's not getting anywhere to where these drugs are, and he ends up trying to get an answer out of this working class man, which Koichi tries to stop, and Knuckle Duster's not having it until our actual hero shows up, which is Aisawa. He's in this anime. He shows up at the end, and that's how the episode ends. Once again, like, overall, I think this is gonna be a great show, a good start to the anime. The animation looks nice. The action sequences look good, and I think the main character is gonna grow on me. Right now, it's kind of like he feels a bit like Deku, but just like grown up and with less cool powers. But I think this will be a great show. 8 out of 10 for me, and that's it on My Hero Vigilantes. So, Summer Pockets episode 1 dropped, and this one seems quite interesting. It's giving me a bit of vibes, like starting out with Summertime Rendering, and how it's just another guy that goes to a village or like an island away from away and into some sort of relatives. But our main character, Hyrie, he's going there because his grandma just passed away or something, and now they're trying to like divide what she had among everybody. And I love that one of his things about going there is that he's a wounded bird of passage. That's what he always says, which is like probably like his heart is hurting out of something for someone or something like that. Uh, One of the things that I really enjoyed at the beginning of this episode was that there was a the animation looked really clean, and there was a butterfly with multicolors. So like, it's probably like a hint that something is gonna happen. We'll see. And also there was like a white haired girl that he just happened to notice around, and yeah, once he gets to the island, he's like, yeah, this is very nostalgic feeling, almost like, even though it's like his first time there apparently. But this is where I'm kind of like thinking like he's probably was there before when he was younger, or he's it could also be like in Summertime Rendering where he kept getting deja vu because he's already experienced this once and now he's re-experiencing it again. But we'll see if it goes down that route. I don't think so, as far as I can see. And I just love how the episode just kind of like carries on with Hyru's perspective and how he's going through town, just seeing the different homes, and until he eventually finds where he's gonna be staying, which is with like his caretaker Misaki. And well, on his first night there, he's just kind of like dreaming, and in his dream, he's drowning. So this just kind of reinforces for me that something prior has happened to Hyri, and he's probably hiding something, and or maybe he feels guilty of something he's done in the past. But then once again, he goes. This episode is just him like going around town exploring pretty much. He encounters two other girls, and there once again he encounters the white haired girl he saw at the beginning of the episode, who's swimming or practicing to swim, and he also meets this other girl, Yumi, who is the other person that's living with Misaki and him, and she is having a hard time with Hyri playing rock paper scissors, constantly losing until like Hyri gives her a hint on how to do better, and how to hide better that what she's gonna pull out next. And then after meeting her, he goes and meets another girl that's in the sidewalk just sleeping, and he tries to prevent her from falling, and he pretty much grabs her, and then she wakes up, which is not a good sign for anything, and she just kind of calls him a pervert and leaves. And then there's an incident where he gets wet and he has to go around shirtless for a bit, and he meets this other guy that then is like, oh dude, you should run away because there's like a shirtless hunt going around, which is true. Then he meets another girl that's currently going after people that don't have any shirts on. So then he has to kind of get away from that. And as he's getting away, he stumbles upon the girl that's practicing to swim again, and he just ends up giving her advice on how to swim properly, and then that's about it. The episode ends with that happening. So Summer Pocket's not so far nothing really deep, aside from me needing to find out more about Hyri and what he's about, because right now it just seems like it's a guy that's going there and not really doing too well for himself. He does seem like he's holding a secret that he wants to carry to the grid, that he's carrying on, and probably needs help letting go of. But I'm sure he'll be able to confine in one of these 4 or 5 girls that he's met so far. And it's like, I guess, a complaint for the show. Uh, I think there needs to be like another like male character, but we'll see how this anime goes. But I think for this one, I'm giving it like a 7 out of 10 for first episode, and that'll be it on Bummer Pockets. So Lazarus episode 1 finally dropped, and this one's a pretty interesting one, to say the least. It's a Adult Swim one with, so it's on Max if you want to watch it. But this one is just, first and foremost, before getting into the episode, I want to say that this one has a lot of action and a lot of fluidity, a lot of parkour movements, and it is, if you like a lot of movement and a lot of parkour, you'll definitely enjoy the first episode. The first episode's a lot of that, with great animation flowing through, and but it does have some good story to boot. So basically the episode starts off with, there's a philosophy of like, how will the world end. That's how it kind of starts off, where it's like, how is the world gonna end? And in it we get this like backstory on this Dr. Skinner, who invented this miracle painkiller known as Hapna. And what was great about this painkiller is that it was, first of all, cheap, and then at that time there seemed to be no side effects to it. So you can tell that this pretty much made it a demand in the market, where like people that didn't want to experience any sort of pain just decided to take it and get rid of it. And because it was affordable, it was very easily, it spread like wildfire throughout. But this drug that was like supposed to save this world kind of ended backfiring, because there was two events that happened. One, the professor disappeared, or like the doctor disappeared for a few years before coming back, and until major part of the population has taken the Hapna. That's when the trap was set, and he was ready to come back. So he comes back after 3 years and decides to let everybody know, hey, everybody that took Hapna, you pretty much have about 30 days to find me, or people are gonna start dropping like flies. And because of that, this like person named Hirsch went to this prison, where we meet our MC, Axel Gilberto. And this is where it gets interesting, because she went in to get him to join this special team that she's trying to get to find the doctor, because they are kind of like in a time crunch, and he has a specific set of skills that are kind of necessary for them. But in visiting him, he pretty much tells her, just so you know, my thing is that I kind of break out of prisons. So that's when he starts breaking out of prison, which the whole break out of the prison was well animated. Like, he literally just kept getting one over the bodyguards, kept flipping around, doing parkour stuff, jumping all over the place, until he eventually was able to escape. And then this is where we also have like, we're slowly being introduced to the other members of the team. One of them is Leland, which is a kid that's still in school but decided to drop out of school because obviously the kind of like, not the world, but like a lot of the population in the world is gonna end. So there's obviously there was a lot of consequences that were explained because of what the doctor just pulled on everybody of the world, where stocks were dropping, Riots were happening all over. There was an unrest among the population because there was no cure, and even if there even if the government did create a cure within those 30 days, there was not enough time to test it and shelf this cure so that everybody could take it. So there's panic on people that took it. There's panic on governments on how to implement the cure, and this is why the team that Hirsch is assembling is very essential. They need to go and find the doctor within those 30 days, as he's the only one with like an actual cure that is known to work and that will probably ease the population and ease the tension and ease the riots. And man, just having our MC run all over the place, it was just so cool. The action sequences are incredible. Like, I cannot stress enough how great they are. They're well worthy. Just those alone are well worthy of you seeing this anime. And eventually, Hirsch and her crew like do come up with a trap where they're kind of like guiding him on where he needs to go, so that he has less options to jump around or do any crazy stunts. And in one of those, like when they thought they cornered him, they really didn't. He was able to use one of Leyland's toys, or like, yeah, one of his toys, to pretty much jump and use it as a softening blow for as he's falling. But one of the girls outsmarted him and was like, "Here, let me take a selfie with you," and that's how they ended up catching him. So they captured him, and he was like, "Okay, well, you captured me. What do we do now?" And that's how the episode 1 ends. And I think I'm giving it a nice 8 out of 10. I feel like the story is the premise and the story are pretty good. The action is incredible, which I expected because it is a map-up project. But yeah, I need to see more from this anime before like really diving more into it. I need to see more character dynamics, really flesh out this group of characters, and really just expand a lot of the world building. Like, just continue seeing how much society deteriorates as they're approaching the 30-day limit that they set in this episode. And yeah, that's it on Lazarus for me. All right, Gundam GQuuuuuX, something like that. I'll learn how to pronounce it at a later day. But yeah, this one, first of all, this is a great looking anime. Whenever a new Gundam comes around, one thing I can be certain is that this is gonna be very political, and it's gonna be very well animated, which it was. And stunning to the mechs, giant mechs, is always good to watch. But in this Gundam anime, there was like fighting, and it's like two different kind of like mobile suits fighting in space. They're not really Gundams, but you can see that they're in this world of mobile suits and traveling through space is pretty much common, as these mobile suits kind of move out of the way as the transported goods are coming. And then there's like a whole scouting regiment that's trying to like look out for the red Gundam, as they say. And once he shows up, it's pretty much over. It's like taking care of all the security with ease, and there's no really like a good way to match it. They even come to a realization that they can't really, with the current mobile suits that they have, they can't really match its specs, so they have to rely on their own Gundam, which is the one that the show was named after. And oh, and then we get like the story of our kind of like protagonist, which is this red hair girl who just gets absolutely kneed in the face, which is just what a great way to start. Very reminiscent of Nisekoi. And and then we have the girl that needs her is kind of like getting away from the police because she stole something very important. And we get a little explanation of this society with like uh how there's different colonies, there's and people live people born in the colonies up in space don't really know of sky, gravity, or even the sea. So like these people in the colonies don't know what the earth has to offer. And and then we get more on the encounter with the red girl and the girl that need her, where the red girl realized that her book bag had this item that was being smuggled through her. So it almost made it seem like the girl that need her had ulterior motives than just like running away. She kind of wanted her to take this chip away from her, so like there was no like real trace that she had it, and in doing so it would make it a lot easier to steal from her than to have to deal with the police or anybody else that's better than her. So back up in space, we start seeing the two Gundams fight, and it is not even a close fight because the guy that's operating the not red Gundam is realizing that somehow the this chip or like this attachment that he put in was not allowing him to fully use the entire power that the Gundam had. Meanwhile, the red Gundam seemed to be operating at a very high capacity, very much at full power. And then we get more on the two girls once again. Uh, the red girl was kind of like laid a trap to see this girl again, so that she can fix her phone because it got broken. Uh, and then they go back to the girl who was gonna give this chip to one of her clients. So they go to that person, and then they start. That's when the mechs kind of like start crashing in downwards, and they start seeing the fight up and close, and it just has this way of showing you that when the mechs really do need to fight up in space, because if they're fighting where there's civilians or there's like buildings around, there's a lot of destruction happening with them. Where even like some of the police that try to get at the red gun were like no match. They were instantly obliterated. And it wasn't until like the the girl, the red hair girl, kind of went into the other Gundam that it was like, whoa, completely different. This next fight between these two Gundams is gonna be completely different because she implanted the chip that the other girl had smuggled in with her, and that allowed her, or like once she got into the Gundam kind of recognized her as worthy, I guess, almost like it has sentient. And now the Gundam's gonna be operating at full capacity next episode. And, and yeah, that's pretty much it. Great start to a new Gundam. Definitely might need a couple might need to rewatch it once again, get a better understanding. But uh, it did seem that it was going a bit fast, or like a bit disjointed for the first episode, but I still enjoyed it. Maybe the next episode will be a bit more better flowing, but I do like that there's more Gundam to watch. So I'm giving this like a 8 out of 10, and that's it on Gundam. So Uma Musa Umamusume, Cinderella grade, episode 1. Just what a great new anime to start off. Um, so this one is essentially about these these species called Umamusume and how their whole purpose is to race, and how they kind of took these people and they started turning them into proper athletes and started having the whole, you can say, like uh made it an integral part of society on betting on them instead of like actual 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 other races, like race horses or like race cars. It seems like this is like the new entertainment of this world as far as like racing and bettings and all that is concerned. But yeah, there is this episode just kind of starts off with one of the national level races currently going around with some of the better Umamusume currently. One of them, and it just pretty much kicks off where like, yeah, this is like the peak of what these people can do, and then it shows us like the other side where like the beginners are and how different it is from this, where like in the regionals there's hardly any people that are there to watch. Meanwhile, these once they reach nationals, though, that's like a completely different ballpark where like seats are filled to the brim, and there's always there's always like an unexpected twist where like even the current base racer does not win, or maybe the current best racer just like obliterates people. And these scouts that are out here in the regionals are kind of looking for like the next breakout star, one that people will attach themselves to and really put their bettings on it, and someone that can really just say, oh, I can relate with this Umamusume and I want to see her succeed. So now we get into the other portion of like how these people end up reaching nationals, or like the groundwork, right? They essentially have their own uh their own schools where they're properly trained, properly uh where they properly get their diets, all this. They have their own schools, their own private schools with their own personal chefs, own private facilities. Essentially, they have everything going for them to make them succeed in racing. And yeah, we have, even though they have all these equipment, all this style of life in the school, once they really much only train them to reach a certain level below national. So I think there's like there's somebody, at least in this school, where like people will stop you from progressing to the nationals for some odd reason. Maybe, like I said, like because this world has a revolving revolves around these races. It probably does not bode well that certain Umamusume get kicked out of the nationals in place for like a newbie that nobody knows of, or like cause this newbie that could cause a huge upset, could like end up causing a lot of losses for very important people. But that's me kind of looking into why in the school they only really strive to reach a regional level and not really have a proper way of encouraging or trying to help their students reach the national level, which is the main goal of our main girl, who for the entire episode we only know her as Dusty Bunny, because our girl Oguri Cup, that's her name, uh she arrives to school in her basically her tracksuit that's all worn out with full of dirt and dust, and that just goes to, and a lot of them are kind of snobby, and they kind of take offense that she couldn't even have her proper uniform on her first day. So she pretty much becomes like a kind of like a laughing stock, and just all around gets isolated from everybody. But it's not even just the fact that her own peers kind of are isolating themselves from her, but it's the fact that she's also kind of oblivious to it, where she's only really focusing on herself, where she's eating a lot of calories to keep up her energy just so she can keep on practicing the entire day. And you can really see her dedication, obviously, through her dirty clothes, and also one day when they force her to sleep in the shed, then they try to bully her in the morning when it was like 5 a.m. They thought she had left, but in reality, or like that she cried and gone away. But in reality, at 5 a.m. is when she starts her own workout routine or her own prep routine to keep practicing running. And that's where she meets one of the current scouts that was looking at the earlier episode, that was looking for somebody to make a star. And they get off to like a decent start, but nothing really kicks off until we get to the later episode, where it's like they get the trial runs essentially. This is where they're testing their overall speed and testing how they move once they're like in the barracks, and how they kick off and stuff. And even though they're in there, they already have scouts going to go see, trying to get the star early and rise them to as high as they can. This is also where these scouts kind of can present their own sponsorships to them, which our girl has no idea. But first up we get Joe, which is essentially our top candidate. People know of her, know that she's fast. She even like completes a certain dash by like under 51 seconds, which is kind of fast, kind of on the fast track of being one of the faster racers, one of the ones that's probably gonna be pushed as a rival to our main girl. And of course, because everybody in class does not like her and kind of ostracizes her, they decide to kind of like pull a prank on her, where like they untie her shoelaces so she couldn't uh speed or couldn't kick off right away. And it kind of backfires on them still, because she's able to tie her shoelaces and then sprints all the way and actually beats the two people that were have been bullying her this episode. And she, on unfortunately for her, she does not beat the main girl Joe, but she does come close, which is kind of an indicator that she is ridiculously fast, ridiculously probably the number one, but because of what happened in the barracks, it kind of slowed down her time. So I'm willing to imagine or even bet that she would have probably finished in like 49, 9ish, like like 2 seconds sooner than Joe would have. And of course, our good boy, our good boy scout Joe is the first that's like, oh no, yeah, she got it. She she got it, and he does his absolute best, and it's like, okay, well, listen here, you come with me, and I'm gonna take you all the way to the top. And that's where we learn our girl's name, Ogre Cap. But yeah, I guess another thing that I really enjoyed is uh, a little. We get a little bit of Ogre Cap's backstory and how like the mother sacrificed a lot for her, and to the point where like even her eating habits were becoming a detriment. But because she believed in her so much, she kept putting up with it, kept giving her all the food she needed, and really gave her the courage to pursue being a professional racer. So I really enjoyed this episode. Its animation is great. Uh, as far as I can tell, the story is really good right now. I can't wait to see how it progresses, how our girl Guru Cap continues to grow, and I really want to see her beat the main girl Joe before a regional or during a regional, whatever. Just make Joe lose and make her the one that's like, oh no, she's the one that's gonna take these races by storm. But that's all I have on Umamusume Cinderella Gray. So, beginning after the end, episode 2. So, this episode, I'll just get this straight off the bat. The animation was probably some of the worst I've seen since Blue Lock, honestly. And for an anime or a manga that deserved a better animation, I do feel sad for it, because I do know that this anime could have been what propelled a lot of people to go towards the manga, and it could really have propelled the story to be greater and reached bigger heights than what it's currently reaching. But to go over what happened in the episode, uh, Arthur, or as in his old world, he's known as King Gray. You get to see a little bit more of his old world life, where he was gonna sentence this guy or this father to death. But before he was doing so, he gave him an opportunity uh, to prove himself and all this, basically make it so he wouldn't suffer as much. But the guy kept trying to convince him to let go of his family, that they had nothing to do with it, that he will take any punishment they seemed fit for him. And in doing, continuing to beg, Arthur pretty much made it so that his family was no longer an option. But at least he was kind enough to not let them suffer as much. And for that, the guy thanks him. And yeah, then we go into Arthur's current world, and he's over here practicing with his father. And you can see that he is starting to pick up a lot of the techniques his father's been showing him. So I think the way we're supposed to look at it is that Arthur can probably mimic any techniques he sees and can copy them after seeing them only once. Or maybe, and yeah, Arthur's father's kind of like, listen, our boy's doing pretty good. He's only four, and he's already doing so much more that I don't know if we can properly teach him. We should probably get him to a proper instructor. And the mother, of course, being the mother that she is, was like, no, you can't take him away from me. And they were bickering back and forth until Arthur kind of came in and is like, why don't we all just go? fixes all the problems. I can get my new instructor, and you guys can be near me, so everybody wins. And the parents agree, and they all decide to start going to the capital, but they're not going just alone with their son. They're bringing their old adventure party with them. And I love how this um, anime and story just keeps going back to Arthur's world, where like in this world they have to go through carriages and basically have it be powered by animals, where like in Arthur's old world it was very highly teched, and it didn't need this primitive kind of technology. And one of the first things they do is they try to set up camp after traveling for a while, and they get attacked by wolves. But this just became like a perfect opportunity for like Arthur to just really see how well his father's former adventure party does things. And the main takeaway from that is that yes, these people are quite strong. They can defend themselves when need be. And during this attack, the father kind of gets a deep scratch from one of the wolves, and the mother starts healing him. Which this is where we get like kind of like an interesting lore bit where emitters that can heal are very rare, and people that people with rare abilities essentially have to be very cautious of when they use their abilities, or they could be taken away. So while Arthur's mother was healing his dad, they kind of put a perimeter around her to avoid anybody seeing her. And as they're carrying on, one of the things I like is that Arthur kind of like has a little scrimmage with one of the adventurers, and he pretty much tries to take it off as seriously as he can. Which, of course, because he's so young, this even if he does have a lot of techniques, he's not powerful enough to really put up a fight like that. And but he does do it enough where the adventurer actually goes full force at him. And one of the things that they kind of scold him afterwards, like, why are you doing that? He's still a kid. And he's kind of like, well, you guys did not have to fight that monster. Did not have to spar with that little monster. And as they carry on their journey, one of the crewmates and former adventure party member kind of sees that Arthur did this technique where he enhances feet with magic, and she kind of wanted to learn how to do that. So like as they're proceeding on their journey, he's learning different things from all these people. He's learning archery, he's learning the lance, and he's learning stealth from this girl, and he's also given back by teaching him his own techniques. So in here, once again, you can see that in this anime, a lot of his former life is going to come crushing forward, coming more forward, I should say. And we're going to get to see how they intertwine a lot, and how his former life is helping him in his current life. And then as they're getting close to completing their journey, they get attacked once again by bandits this time. So this situation is a lot more dire, where now they have to combat bandits who are more intelligent than the monsters, and their numbers are kind of getting the better of them. And in the last ditch effort, the father kind of tells Arthur, "Listen, Arthur, you gotta get away with your mother." And Arthur's like, "No, but I can fight. You know, I'm quite strong." He's like, "Yeah, that's why I need you to get away from her, from here, so you can keep her safe." And then we get the bombshell that the mother is carrying Arthur's baby brother or sister, one of the two, and that pretty much puts more in perspective what kind of like the protect the family aspect that Arthur never had to deal with before, and now he kind of understood why, or kind of like realized, okay, well, you got things to protect, you got to do what you got to do to take care of them. So he goes away with his mom, trying to get away from these bandits, and in doing so, they kind of get ambushed still by this mage, and this mage kind of takes out Arthur, but Arthur doesn't allow the mage to get the better of the last laugh. As he's falling off a cliff, he takes him along with him. And in this, he starts reminiscing about the guy from earlier in the episode where he's like, "Oh, I finally understand him." So by having to experience this, he realized, damn, I guess kind of joy and sorrow do kind of go together. So as he's joyful that he's about to be a big brother, he's also kind of sorrowful that because he's about to fall to presumably his death, he's never gonna get to be the big brother, or never gonna be able to protect his little brother like his parents protected him, like the guy in the beginning of the episode was trying to protect his family. And you can just really start to see shifts in Arthur where he is more expressive, is more aware of his own feelings, and it's honestly really great to see. Um, but yeah, this fall was not his end, as after the after the ending sequence, we get to see Arthur's alive, but he's in a very precarious position where this monster is just hovering over him, as he's just laying there, probably unable to move, unable to do anything. So, great cliffhanger. Um, yeah, like I said, my gripes with the anime is the adaptation as a whole, because I hear the manga is really great. So, uh, I'm still very much enjoying the story. So I'm still gonna give it like a 7.5 to an 8. We'll see if it keeps it up, or like if the anime keeps dropping, I might have to lower the overall rating. But that's it on the beginning after the end, episode 2. One Piece, episode 1124. So there was a back-to-back episode dropped over the weekend, but I didn't get to cover the second one, so now I'm covering it now. So basically, the episode kicks off with like another mini recap. Once again, it's just a typical One Piece thing where you are always going to get a small recap of the previous episode in case you missed some of the important stuff. Will be recapped at the beginning of the episode. But as far as new stuff, we get Luffy taking the Denden Mushi and talking to the Gorosei. And I love that Luffy's just, even though he's a Emperor Z, you still have his carelessness, or like his impulsive behaviors where he just does things and not really thinks of the consequences, or thinks what what's happening and what could happen afterwards. So he's just kind of talking to them, letting them know that York is alive, and that his demand is that they clear a path for him so that they can leave Head Island in one piece. and if they don't, they might end up killing her. And maybe overhears this and it's kind of like, oh no, that's not the Luffy that I knew of. And Morgan's over there like, oh yes, Luffy's taken a Vegapunk hostage. He's using him as a bargaining chip. Yes, this is perfect. And as the Gores are kind of like, they're talking to Luffy, they're trying to get information of how many people are there, how many have died, all this other stuff. And Luffy, being Luffy, was about to like just let him know, but Robin's like, Luffy, shuts the call down, and it's like, now they realized, oh, that's a woman voice. Maybe that's Nico Robin, which we know Robin is very highly sought after because of her ability to read the poneglyphs. And this just made the Gorsa get an even better reason as to needing to be there, needing to take care of Vegapunk, and possibly getting Robin so that they can either kill her or use her for other stuff. Maybe make a clone of her so that the clone of her can read the poneglyphs for them. Who knows? And after this, we have the goal of the crew which is to get out. Well, the enemy's goal is completely different. They're like, okay, well, we know what we have to do now. We have to get York back and protect her, and we also have to protect the lab, and punk records that she needs to make the mother flame, and also the power plant necessary for the production of it. So basically, Saturn tells them these are the important parts that we cannot destroy. However, anybody else that's currently there is all fair game, and that's considering CP0, is considering the others Cyberpol agents that were trapped there, and this and what Saturn tells is kind of like very telling of how they view, how the Celestial Dragons view everybody below them. He's like, well, they're just insects. Humans are just like insects. So humans to Saturn don't even recognize as actual people. They're essentially just bugs to crush whenever they see so fit to do so. And even the Vice Admiral's kind of like taken back by the way he's talking about humans, but also because the Goroseisan is such higher totem of power, you can tell that he has to follow his orders, not necessarily that he wants to or that he likes to. He just kind of knows he has to. And then this is where we get to see how Robin got her injuries, which thanks to Robin, they were able to save Vegapunk, as her powers were used to stop York from shooting Vegapunk, or the main satellite. And then of course Robin then got injured by the Seraphim, which then got stopped, or like temporarily stopped by Gaku, who eventually got a lot of injuries through them, who then had to get saved by Zoro and Sanji to an extent, who Sanji then had to get saved by Nami. So there's a lot of stuff happening that we didn't get to see. Even as a manga reader, this was always one of the things that I wanted to know, how they got injuries and what happened in between. And knowing that Robin was the one that saved Vegapunk, and then Zoro was the one that ended up saving the rest of the crew. Pretty great to know. But yeah, I do like that the Cyberpol agents that were trapped are kind of now thanking the Straw Hats for rescuing them and feeding them. even though they're like, damn, should we really be taking food from pirates? And they're like, yeah, well, yeah, we kind of have to. And we get also like the backstory of how everybody came on unpetrified, and that's because Luffy was thinking, asking the Boa Seraphin to like, to please heal his friends, and because she has Boa's DNA, she obviously has a feelings for Luffy, and this is like news to Vegapunk, who then had to like write it down. It's like, oh, so like emotions can transfer through the genetic gene. Interesting. And and then we have the Vice Admiral start gearing up to attack the island at full force. With everybody charging in, everybody's already had their meals, got their energies up through their meals. Now it's just time to attack. Um, the Vice Admirals are first to set fire, but Kizaru is the one that pulls up to send tomorrow, and we get like an interesting lore bit where like Kizaru's lasers was like the main focus of Vegapunk's lasers that are now being used in the pacifistas. And we're having like a small clash between Kizaru and Sentomaru. And then before the episode ends, Luffy goes and it's like, oh, he stops and it's like senses somebody, and he says that there's somebody strong in the island. And that's where the episode ends off. So overall, Egghead is getting chaotic, and as a manga reader, I know exactly what's happening and what's to come. And I gotta say, like, this anime is being done beautifully. Even though it barely adapts a chapter, I believe. The way they're pacing it is great. The animation quality is still as crisp as part one, and yeah, the action is gonna really start going forward from here on out. So buckle up, and until the next time for this One Piece anime, I'm giving this episode a 9 out of 10. Way better than last episode. Not as much recap. So thankfully, I thoroughly enjoyed this episode. But I think that's gonna be it. So YouTube, if you like what we discussed, like the animes I discussed, want to talk about the anime, just leave me a comment below in the video. Leave a like and subscribe. Hit the noti bell so you don't miss out on the next uploads. And if you want to catch these a few days earlier, please make sure you go and follow the Twitch. It's in the description below. I stream these discussions on Twitch first, and then I upload them to YouTube later. So follow the Twitch, and until next time, bye. And until next time, stream, bye.